Kaido's durability and his inability to die has been a staple of his character ever since he was introduced. That's why in the recent chapters, seeing him actually get injured and hurt, it's been kinda jarring for everybody. In fact, some of it actually feels inconsistent. So in this video, I wanna break down everything we know about Kaido's durability and how it works. What aspects of it has to do with his race, what aspects of it has to do with his devil fruit, and how much damage do you really need to output to actually hurt him. And to start off, we gotta break down the iconic introduction of Kaido, which was one of the best introductions in all of One Piece in my opinion. While we see Uroge's chilling with his crew, out in the distance we just see this shadowy figure and he just jumps off of the Sky Island. On top of that, we get the official narrator coming in and giving this whole speech about Kaido's life. And within this narration, there's some stuff that we need to focus on. To start, it focused on the fact that this was a man looking for a place to die. After that, it went into some details about his history. Kaido was defeated 7 times and captured 18 times while challenging other Yonko and the Marines. And through these losses that he suffered, he was actually tortured thousands of times. And on top of that, he was sentenced to death 40 times. And this is really where we get into the details of Kaido's durability. When they try to hang the man, the rope snapped. When they try to behead the man, the blade cracked. And when they try to skewer the man, the spear snapped. Not only did that describe Kaido's durability, but those are some bars. But yet many times people try to kill Kaido, but in the end, none of them were successful, to the point that he is trying it himself right now. And the point of emphasis that the narrator makes is that nobody has ever been able to kill Kaido. And that's when we get the full introduction of Kaido, the strongest creature in the world, the man you should always bet on in a 1v1 fight, whether that's on land, sea, or air. So what exactly can we take away from this narration and what it describes about Kaido? Well, there's certainly points that are made about Kaido's durability, specifically the fact that he was tortured so many times and it didn't really have any effect on him. On top of that, the points that were made about all these methods that were used to try to kill him not working, that also proves he has insane durability as well. But at the end of the day, the big point of emphasis that is made in this narration and introduction is the fact that he cannot be killed. This introduction definitely hypes him up in terms of power and durability, but also counters that with the failures that he suffered throughout his life. Although he's never been killed, he's not this unbeatable pirate. The introduction starts with the fact that he's lost 7 times before. He's also been captured many times and sentenced to death even more, but in the end, nobody could kill him. That's the point of emphasis. So I do think over time, we've kind of misinterpreted that Kaido cannot be injured from this introduction. But it's also not this introduction alone that has hyped up Kaido's durability. The main one that really hyped up Kaido's durability was when Hiyori introduced Enma. Specifically, Hiyori mentioned Enma as the only katana to wound Kaido. Now this statement, as we saw in the Oden flashback, was simply just not true. Because yes, Enma did damage and wound Kaido, but so did the Amino Habakiri. And while it's very easy for us here to be Oda apologists and say, oh, Hiyori just doesn't know the full scope of the situation and that's why she misspoke, but being honest here, Oda kinda messed up here. Like, he should not have said Enma was the only blade to ever wound Kaido, because that's just not true. I think he was just trying to hype up Enma a little more, which he really didn't need to do, and as a result we got this misrepresented statement through Hiyori. But I think a lot of us have misinterpreted this information as well, because it specifically says it's the only katana to ever wound Kaido. Hiyori/Oda does not say that this is the only wound Kaido has ever suffered, but I think some of us thought that's what the statement meant because it was such a hype statement and there's been so much built up about Kaido's durability, but that just wasn't what Hiyori says. Hiyori specifically said Enma was the only katana to ever wound Kaido. So combining these two things together with Oda messing up by saying that Enma is the only blade to ever wound Kaido, and us taking this information and believing it as that this is the only time that Kaido has ever been injured, that kind of created this false belief about what Kaido's durability actually was, and that was completely shattered when the Scabbards attacked Kaido. Because all of a sudden you got the Scabbards coming in and everybody is just doing damage to Kaido. Kaido is screaming in pain and they're just stabbing through his hand and making him bleed. So I think initially a lot of people were very surprised because we had this false belief of what Kaido's durability actually was. But I think we have adjusted to the situation and understood a little better what Kaido's durability actually is. Kaido is not this invincible unbeatable being that cannot be defeated or injured at all. But at the same time, we cannot underestimate him either because of the damage that he took. At the end of the day, there's still a massive difference between injuring Kaido, wounding Kaido, and killing Kaido. Let's start by breaking down what we saw from the Scabbards when they hurt Kaido. They snuck up on Kaido, sneak attacked him, and were able to injure him. We saw Kinemon's blade directly stab into Kaido. We saw blood coming out. Kiku directly stabbed right through Kaido's hand, which honestly I think was probably one of the more impressive attacks, but unfortunately she lost the arm in the battle, so an arm for a hand, I guess. But yeah, when the Scabbards first attacked Kaido, they were able to injure him, but on top of that, Kaido was screaming in pain. But it's very important to point out what exactly he was thinking when this happened. He was thinking about Odin and getting flashbacks of Odin. He pointed out that the scar he had from Odin was hurting, and specifically he was wondering if the Scabbards were using Odin's Ryo. So when the Scabbards attacked him, there's a big emphasis on Odin and Odin related connections. That's very different from him just questioning their overall strength. But let's move on to the rooftop, because on there they do even more damage. Kinemon becomes the first ever man to cut Kaido twice, cuts through his burrow blast and slices his mouth. Kawamatsu uses an attack called River of Sea, and that makes Kaido bleed as well. Inuarashi stabs Kaido with K9 Scrooge, and that penetrates Kaido's skin as well. And then you have Raizo, who uses a scroll and reflects the burrow blast onto Kaido, which actually makes him scream in pain again. And this whole time his subordinates are kind of freaking out. It's like, oh my god, Kaido's actually getting injured. What is going on here? But while all this is happening and Kaido's getting cut, he's still very much confused. He calls their attacks nonsense and also says their attacks don't really reach the level of Odin, so he's very confused why they actually cut him. But before he's able to process everything, the Scabbards launched their strongest attack together with the Paradise Totsuga. The exact same attack Odin used the first time to wound him, and they hit the exact same spot as the old wound. And after this attack, Kaido falls down and he's clearly bleeding. There's a lot of blood, but if you look closely at the wound is clearly not open. And of course, right after this, Kaido confirms it. This is when he really comes to his senses and wakes up. He started off by complimenting them by saying, "Your spirit, it was so great that it reminded me of Odin. It was so great, in fact, that I could have let you kill me." But he goes on to explain that every time his scar throbbed and hurt, he remembered the situation with Kozuki Odin. And he ends his speech by saying, "But you guys are not enough. You guys are not Kozuki Odin, and you can't even open up this old wound." And with this speech, I think we got a very clear definition of how Kaido's durability works. Again, he's not this uninjurable being that can never lose. That's just not true. The Scabbards were able to injure them through their own strength, and we should absolutely give credit to the Scabbards. But at the end of the day, injuring Kaido and wounding Kaido are two very different things. In my opinion, all it really takes to injure Kaido is advanced armament hockey techniques and also a good amount of strength. There are also ways you could do internal damage, which we'll talk about in a little bit when we get to the Supernova action. But still, these are only ways to injure Kaido. You can make him bleed a little bit, but it's still not that serious to him. At the end of the day, if you really want to wound him and really hurt him like Kozuki Odin did, you need a lot more hockey. The other thing we have to consider here is that the Scabbards were probably able to do a little more damage than they should have because there was that Odin factor. Kaido was in a more vulnerable state because of how much they reminded him of Odin. But yeah, with that, I think we've established the difference between injuring Kaido and actually wounding Kaido, which so far in the story only Kozuki Odin has showcased. But I don't think Odin is the only person to have ever actually hurt Kaido, because number one, he has been defeated 7 times. There's no way he lost without actually getting hurt. Second of all, when Luffy finally injured him, he started reminiscing about people that could actually fight him, which was Odin, Roger, Whitebeard, Rocks, and Shanks. Now the other question is, why exactly does he only have this one scar from Odin if there's other people that have defeated him before and people that can fight him on even ground? And for that information, honestly, we'll just have to wait for Kaido's flashback, but I think it's a matter of circumstance. In terms of the 4 pirates that he mentioned, I can see like Whitebeard and Roger not really taking Kaido seriously. Rocks was his captain, so I feel like he wouldn't have like seriously injured his own crew crewmates, he might have like beat up Kaido, especially when Kaido was young and an apprentice, and like to teach him a lesson, but he didn't like slice his arm off or something like that. Now the really interesting one is the Marines, because while the Marines have captured him, they've never been able to kill him. And like obviously like the rope and the guillotine, those things aren't gonna work, but like why can't Garp just punch him to death? It may be possible that Garp just can't damage Kaido, but I really have a lot of belief in Garp's powers, so personally I do think that Garp should be able to fight Kaido on even ground. But I'm interested to hear your guys' thoughts on whether or not Garp can hurt Kaido. Let me know in the comments below. But the other question with the Marines is why don't they just drown the guy? And that can actually be explained by the info we got recently, which is Kaido's devil fruit. In the manga, we recently found out that Kaido's fruit is a mythical fish fruit. So given this information and the fact that they refer to Kaido as somebody you should rely on in land, sea, or air, I think this means that because of his devil fruit, he should not drown. We also did get recent confirmation that Kaido does have a dragon devil fruit. In the most recent SBS, Oda revealed Kaido's devil fruit to be the mythical fish fruit motto Azure Dragon. Now honestly, I'm a little confused why he revealed this in the SBS as opposed to the manga, but with that we do get the confirmation that Kaido is not a dragon, which also kind of helps answer another question of where exactly does his durability come from, because if it came from the devil fruit, they should realistically be able to put sea stone cuffs on him and they should be able to just kill him that way. But with the reveal of his devil fruit, we can confirm that it comes from his base form, whatever race he is, and he has showcased that many times in other fights, most recently in this fight against the Supernova. And actually that's what I want to get to next, the Supernova versus Kaido and how much damage they're actually doing to Kaido. The first person to deal real damage to Kaido is Luffy. He comes up, hits him with a red rock, and he's bleeding out of the mouth and he's absolutely shook. But this time around, his surprise is completely different. He's not really thinking about Oden. He's more surprised at how fast Luffy grew. His old scar's not hurting, he's not really getting flashbacks of Oden. The only thing he's thinking about is how high Luffy's ceiling is with his crazy ass growth. But at the same time, I think we've overestimated how much damage Luffy did there because of how epic of a moment it was. Because Kaido does quickly get over this surprise and he just starts smiling and hits Luffy with a Thunder Bagua right after that. So honestly, I do think the damage that Luffy is dealing to Kaido right now is not that far off from the damage that the Scabbards did to Kaido. All he is doing right now is injuring Kaido. He has not seriously wounded or hurt Kaido. And we see that clearly when he launches Gear 4th attacks later on that really don't hurt Kaido that much. With the next round of attacks, Luffy attacked Kaido with Kid and Law, where Luffy hits him with a Kong gun and Kaido just tanks it. Kid tries to squish Kaido, that doesn't work. Law tries some boulders, which that definitely did not work. And Zoro and Killer as well, when they first tried to cut Kaido, all it did was leave a little indent in his neck and that was it. But in 1002, they all stepped their game up. Again, Luffy is attacking Kaido in Gear 4th. He uses Kong Rifle and also Rhino Schneider. Kong Rifle kind of knocks Kaido back and Rhino Schneider does make Kaido bleed a little bit, but still neither of them are doing that much damage. Luffy is still just injuring Kaido. But meanwhile, other people have figured out ways to get past Kaido's durability as well. You have Law using Gamma Knife to hurt him directly internally. That causes Kaido to scream, which makes sense, I think. Think about like how powerful of attack that Gamma Knife was for Law. But obviously it wasn't gonna have the same effect on Kaido as it did Doflamingo because Kaido's body is so long, his organs are probably so spread out. But I will say the one that really confused me was Eustace Kid, and he just RKO'd Kaido with a Punk Gibson and Kaido actually screamed out in pain. And honestly guys, maybe you'll call me a hater, but I don't think Kid did any damage here and I'm genuinely confused as to why Kaido screamed. From what we've seen with Kaido's durability, you need to know techniques that can damage him internally and bypass his durability. A body slam from Kid should not hurt him and make him scream out loud. And you might be saying I'm over analyzing a scream from Kaido, but when you set up a character that is so incredibly durable, we're gonna notice all these little things like a scream because they're context clues to how much damage is Kaido actually taking. The only way this would make sense to me is that if it had something to do with Kid's devil fruit, which honestly I don't even have a good guess with how it could connect with his RKO to damage Kaido internally. But if you guys have any good ideas, definitely let me know in the comments below. Now after this new trio of attacks from Kid, Law, and Luffy, Kaido does get up and say enough tricks. It looks like you guys have figured out my durability, so you're not fools after all. So while he's still referring to their attacks as tricks and he's not actually seriously taking severe damage, he does point out like, hey, you guys are actually injuring me and bypassing my durability. Does he include Kid in that statement? I personally don't think so, but it's a situation that I'm very confused with. But after that, we got more people showcasing ways to get past Kaido's durability. You have Killer using the Sonic Scythe, another way to damage Kaido internally. That was another attack that makes Kaido scream, but again, I still think it's just injuring him and not actually really damaging him. But the one attack that I think that would have seriously injured Kaido was the Flying Dragon Blaze by Zoro. This was an attack that Big Mom stepped in and was like, Kaido, look out, this is trouble. And Big Mom's reaction here is important because throughout the entire fight, whether it was the Scabbards or the Supernova, she was chilling the whole time. She had full confidence in Kaido. But with Zoro's attack here, she noticed that it was a very strong attack and has some serious damage. And after that attack gets launched, she says we underestimated them. So I do think if Zoro's Flying Dragon Blaze landed, he probably would have actually wounded Kaido. But it's very important to note that Zoro still missed, and that's because that attack is not a controlled attack in my opinion. In my last video, I kind of broke this down about how Zoro's using Emma's powers to unleash more haki, so go check that out for the full breakdown. But I do think Zoro's last attack could have wounded Kaido, but he still doesn't have control over it, so he couldn't wound Kaido because he missed. And that's the next step for Zoro and the other Supernova, to advance their techniques even more, to actually be able to wound Kaido and actually defeat him. So for Zoro is fully learning how to control the haki and using advanced armament haki on his own. For Luffy, he probably needs to draw out more of his own haki, probably advance his gears a little more. Law, I still think is going to be in more of a support role, but because he used Gamma Knife so early on, I'm hoping he has more up his sleeve. Killer, I gotta say I'm very impressed. I did not expect him to be able to damage Kaido, but I still do think it's very possible that he dies. And Use's Kid, I need some explanations and I need to see more action out of you. And another point I do want to add is that Kaido, depending on his situation, he could be more vulnerable or more protected. Like against the Scabbards, it was a sneak attack, he was probably more vulnerable, he was thinking about Odin a little more. But when he was serious against like Law, Kid, and Luffy and really braced himself, Luffy's Kong gun really didn't do anything to him. So when he's on guard, you're gonna have to deal even more damage, so you're best off trying to catch him off guard. But overall, that is my full breakdown on Kaido's durability and how it works. And yeah, Kaido's gonna be very hard to beat, and that's not even mentioning Big Mom, who also has massive amount of durability herself. They called her an iron balloon. So I'm definitely very excited to see how the Supernova grow and win this battle. But what about you guys? How do you think Kaido's durability actually works? Do you have any idea why Kid was able to injure Kaido supposedly? Let me know in the comments below. But as always, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did enjoy, please hit that like button. To keep up with this channel, you gotta hit that subscribe button, hit the bell to get notified. Thank you all to my King Pirates Elite members on YouTube and Patreon for supporting the channel. Be sure to follow me on Twitch on these streams and follow me on Twitter. I'm DKing4, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.